In addition, they don't lead at work. Well, you see with Ahab at work, Jezebel makes all the decisions. Here's going to be our religion. Here's going to be our real estate portfolio. Here's going to be our, employees. She makes all the decisions. She rules and reigns. If you are an Ahab at work, you are maybe even going to occupy a position where they call you president or CEO or CFO or manager, but you're just a puppet. And behind the scenes is someone with a Jezebel spirit just working you like a marionette, and you're a puppet doing their bidding. In addition, Ahabs avoid picking a church. I'll talk about this when we get into the Jezebel spirit next week. God had a spiritual commitment to his people that they were supposed to worship him alone. These are the Jewish people in the nation of Israel. They're supposed to heed and obey the Old Testament, the Ten Commandments. What happens is Ahab marries Jezebel and she picks the church. So no, we're going to close all the real churches. We're going to open our version of church. And let me say this. If you're an Ahab, you let your wife make all the spiritual decisions in the church and in the home and in your life. Some of you, if you're an Ahab, you're just like, hey, honey, where do you want to go to church? And let me say this. You should consider your wife. The Bible talks about that. But you shouldn't follow your wife. You should make your decisions together and follow the Lord. But what happens when there's an Ahab, he's like, well, I'm not going to pick our religion. I'm not going to pick our church. I'm going to pick our kids' school or their education. So let me say this, gentlemen. If your wife doesn't attend church with you and you're both believers, you may be an Ahab and she may be a Jezebel. If you are a man who has a propensity to go to whatever church she chooses, even if you don't like it, you don't feel right about it, doesn't work, doesn't fit, doesn't build up men to bless women and children, but you tolerate it and you go there, you may be an Ahab married to a Jezebel. In addition, Ahabs avoid joy. You're going to see in his life, he's a very emotional person, but he's not a very joyful person. You're going to see him throwing a fit. You're going to see him scared and hiding. You're going to see him weeping. You're going to see him yelling, but you'll never see him worshiping and filled with joy. Ahabs tend to be emotional people, but oftentimes not very joyful people. He hides a lot. He whines a lot. He sulks a lot. He weeps a lot. He doesn't rejoice a lot. In addition, Ahabs avoid difficult decisions. You'll see in the storyline of Ahab, every time there's a tough decision, he defers. Well, what do you think? What do you want? Or he just gets frozen and paralyzed. He doesn't say anything, and he knows eventually his wife will do all the talking. It's okay to be a quiet guy, but not a silent guy. Even a quiet guy, at some point, has got to find his voice, and he's got to lead, and he's got to speak, and he's got to make decisions. What happens over and over in the storyline of Ahab and Jezebel, every time there's a difficult decision, she makes it. Well, what kind of church are we going to open? Honey, what kind of church do you want to have? Well, are we going to show up to Mount Carmel and send the false prophets? Well, honey, what do you think? Well, are we going to let Naboth say no to the land deal, or are we going to kill him and steal it? Well, honey, you make the decision. Over and over and over, she makes all and here's why Ahabs do this. If it goes well, they benefit. If it goes poorly, they can blame somebody else. It's passivity, it's indifference, it's tolerance. If I make a decision, now I'm responsible for the decision. If I'm going to call the shots, I got to take the shots. If I don't make any decisions, then if it goes bad, someone else gets the blame, not me. That's the passive Ahab tendency. In addition, Ahabs avoid sacrifice. They're not courageous. They do things that are very selfish, not selfless. There's an occasion in the story of Ahab where two kings and kingdoms go off to war. The other king, he dresses up like a king, sets himself up on the hill, and he says, men, go to war. And he basically has got the flag flying over his head telling the enemies, come get me. I'm ready for the fight. Ahab doesn't do that. He does the exact opposite. He dresses up, not like the king. He's trying to blend in and hide and not be found, and he doesn't want to be known. He's not willing to get in the middle for the well-being of his people. He will not sacrifice himself or make any sacrifices. And when it comes to the fight, he's going to flee and hide rather than fight with courage.